All right, guys, so the question that we get, and one of those questions out there, is how much does it cost to start selling on eBay?
And are eBay fees even worth it? So we're going to dive into both of those things because when we post stuff, sometimes people are like, well, the eBay fees seem like they're too much. Like, is it worth selling on eBay? So we're going to dive into some of those fees, what they are, and when does it make sense or when does it not make sense for eBay?
Absolutely.
So let's just start off with what are the eBay fees? So if you want to get started on eBay, you don't have to have a store and you can have up to 250 listings for free. So you don't have to pay anything up front. That's the one thing that's kind of cool is you don't have to pay anything up front. You're paying mostly just once the item sells.
Yep, which is very, very important because it's nothing out of pocket. When you're selling on eBay and you're starting out selling, you only have to pay for the item if you are flipping, or if you already have the item in your house and you're just liquidating stuff. You don't have to pay for anything to get it listed on eBay. You can list it and then you pay the fees after it actually sells. So that actually is the next thing, is what are those fees?
Well, and then there is also insertion fees. Like, so if maybe you started, you don't want to get a store yet, then you'll pay 35 cents for an insertion fee, anything after that 250 listings. So you'll pay that, and you do pay that up front. So you'll pay that as soon as you list it. Well, they bill you like monthly. But you'll pay that in the beginning versus when the item sells. So,
if you do choose to do the insertion fee.
Yes, if you get over 250 and you don't have a store. So.
Yes. But starting out, you don't have to go over 250. We are 20 some years in and we still do not sell or list over 250 items in a month. That's our business model. We sell less, we make higher profits on the items that we sell. So you can totally do this without selling $250 every single month without doing that many listings. So you can totally list for free when you're starting off and you do not have to pay those insertion fees.
And that's one thing that I don't like about Facebook Marketplace is how they have done their listing. They're boosting their listing. Like, if you want to get your item seen to more people, you have to pay that. It's an ad cost and you have to pay that up front. And it's annoying. Like, I don't want to pay it up front if I don't know my item's going to sell. Whereas if you do promotions on eBay, we'll talk about that in a minute, but if you do promotions, then you're paying that still at the end. So once the item sells, you're paying a percentage, whatever you choose. So
yeah. And this is definitely worth noting that you can, when you are listing an item, eBay has certain fields and certain things that you can click, like subtitle. You can actually, if you want to do a subtitle, you have to pay extra on the insertion, which is part of the insertion fee. But you've
never done them.
Never.
Yeah.
I never put a subtitle, and there's a couple different fields that you can do when you're listing an item. You don't have to do, it's optional. If you want to get charged for that, the insertion fee, you can do those on the get-go when you're starting your listings and stuff like that. But you can totally do it for free. That's how we do it. And like Melissa said with the promotions, you can decide that you want to promote that item, which promotion just is eBay's way of saying they're going to show your item to more people, but you do not pay on the front end of that. You don't pay until the item sells, and then eBay takes the whatever percent you agreed to do the promotion for. They take that after the item sells, and you have your money, or the buyer pays for that item. So, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. And so we also need to dive into some of the store costs too, because is it worth it for you to have an eBay store? So when you first start out, you're jumping in, the fees are going to be 12.9% on average. This is like some of the categories range, and we'll put a link in the show notes. You can look at all the different categories, the percentage rates that they are if you have a store versus if you don't have a store. But on average, it's 12.9%. And on average, if you have a store, it's 12%. So it's almost a 1% savings, which you could end up allocating towards promotions anyway.
Yeah.
But it's almost a 1% savings if you just have any subscription to a store. So, and there are a couple different types of stores. I wrote them all down so I didn't forget. There's a starter store for only $4.95. Well, okay, so they give you two different options. You can pay annually or you can pay monthly. So there are 5 different types of stores. The starter store, you get 250 listings, $4.95 a month if you pay annually, or $7.95 if you just pay monthly. So
one of the cool things about these options with the store, I believe it's even on the basic, isn't it?
Yeah.
The $250 or $2,500
yes.
cap. So one of the really, really cool things, if you're trying to decide if I should have a store, if I should not have a store, if you're using the business model that we use, which is higher profit, lower volume.
It almost doesn't make sense for the amount of listings, but the thing that does make sense.
Exactly. So you are charged a less amount of fees on the overall sale. So if you're going to sell stuff between $2,500 and $10,000, having one of these stores totally makes sense, because how they calculate the fees that you owe on the back end depends on if you have a store. When you do have a store, they cap it at 12%. depending on the categories, don't
Yeah.
take us exactly, 12 to 13% in that area. They're going to cap it at $2,500. So if you sell an item for $5,000, the first $2,500 of that sale is going to be a 12 or a 13%, whatever it is. It's the higher rate, but it caps at $2,500. And then the remainder of the money, which is another $2,500, they drop that down to 2 or 3%, which in itself alone is totally worth the subscription of the store. You'll save it on your first item that you sell, at $5,000, something like that, or the monies that you do. And they only do this on the single sale. So it doesn't, what's the word called? If you're selling like 50 items and you get over $2,500, it doesn't work that way. It's on a single item. But for us, that's our business model, is the higher profits, less volume, higher profits. So we're into that $5,000, $10,000 range on a single item, and it totally helps with us being that way.
And if you don't have a store, I think you mentioned it, that you will pay you'll only get that 2.35% after $7,500.
It's huge difference.
A big difference. So for us, since we do a fairly good amount of sales over 2,500, it definitely makes sense for us to have a store subscription. So we actually have a basic store subscription, which gives you 1,000 listings, buy it now listings, and also 250 auction listings, which we never use our auction listings.
Auction, that's one of the
do any?
Very seldom will I ever do an auction because it takes sometimes longer. Auctions you can only do up to 7 to 10 days. I think 10 days is the cap for an auction. And sometimes, the majority of the time, the stuff that we sell, it might take longer to find that right buyer than 10 days. The right buyer won't come through eBay and search for that item. Plus, eBay actually throws their listings out onto Google, and it takes a little bit of time to get your listing out to Google to find that right buyer. But when they do find it, they'll come in and buy it because you're offering it at the right price. So yeah, we definitely, that's one of those things that
we don't use that much.
Exactly.
But some people do, and if you are a collector, like if you have collectibles or you have stuff consistently that is high, like hot items and stuff, it could be worth it to do an auction. For sure. And you'll do one every once in a while on stuff that you don't care what it goes for, and just to get like stuff moving again. So that could help too. And that is $27.95 if you pay monthly, or you get a savings of $21.95 a month if you pay annually. So, which we need to pay ours annually because that's a decent savings.
It is, absolutely.
The premium store, you get 10,000 listings a month for $74.95, or if you pay annually, it's $59.95 a month, and you get 500 auction items. The Anchor store, I'm just going to go through these quickly. You get 25,000 listings a month, or 1,000 auctions, and that is $349.95 a month. I could just round it up, or $299.95 a month if you pay annually. And an Enterprise store, you get 100,000 listings, or 2,500 auction, and 2,500, not or, and they only do an annual plan of $23,000 a month for annually. Yeah. But you gotta, times 12. So there you go.
So definitely, if your business is higher volume, or you're going into the business to go into higher volume, anything above the basic store, you probably want to look into those, because you're going to be churning, you're going to be selling and listing and doing a lot of sales in your business. That's when you want to go above that. But people who are trying to do less sales, or even starting out in the business, you totally do not need to go above that basic store. And you could really get away with the starter store. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And be at that savings of, the biggest thing for us is the $2,500 to $7,500 cap that you're getting charged that initial 12, 13%. That's the biggest thing for us with our business model that we do.
Yeah, and you get that extra 0.9% savings on most categories. So, which adds up, as you start doing more. So, so we could even probably get away with a starter store if we look at it. You also do get, I didn't see on there, the coupon each month or each quarter for shipping supplies. So they have a little store set up. So that is another benefit to having a store, and you save on the fees. So what was that? Yeah, the 2,500 versus 7,500. Yep. And then, so that is a comment we get on social a lot, is like, well, why pay eBay fees when you could sell it locally? So how would you answer that?
Yeah, definitely. And the cool thing, like we stated originally, you can totally go through, list something on eBay without paying a penny. So you can get your item out there to everybody who's looking for it without paying a penny. Once it sells, that's when you have to pay the fees on the back end. Now, remember what we said. There are certain parts in the listing process that you can opt to pay for an insertion fee, the title, if you want to do an auction, all that extra kind of jazz. You can totally do that and pay for the insertion fee, but we don't do that. We don't pay anything to list our items. We list them without it. Sometimes we'll do the promotion. A lot of times we will do the promotion, but we don't pay it on the back end. So that's one of those things that you definitely can get started without paying a penny, which was our original question on that. That's something that you can totally do without paying an original penny to get started.
Yeah. So why would it be worth it to still sell on eBay with if you could have hardly any fees on Marketplace,
Yeah.
or no fees if you meet locally versus, or 5% fees if you end up shipping it.
And sorry, I got sidetracked on that.
You did.
So the main purpose on selling on eBay is it's a bigger, you reach such a bigger pool of people looking for that specific item. Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, Craigslist, any of the local apps that you have, they're local for a reason. They're only reaching that local market. 50, 60, 70,000, depending on how big your town is. A lot of times it's less than that, are actually looking in that area for those items, and that's the people that you're able to get in front of. With eBay, there's no cap on local. I mean, it does it global, definitely nationwide, but you can even do global shipping or international shipping, where you can get your items to other countries, and eBay will take care of that, being able to ship it to eBay's global hub, and then they forward it on and do all the customs, all the paperwork, and all that extra kind of stuff. So the biggest point of this is you're going to reach so many more people looking for that specific item that you're selling. Yeah, where eBay, I think last time we checked, what was it, 150 some million registered users have the potential of seeing what you're selling. Within the local markets, you're limited to that 40, 50, 60,000 range of people that are in that local area that are able to see your item. You're not getting it out to a nation or a global market.
Yeah, and I have to add, we're not paid by eBay or anything.
No, absolutely not.
We're definitely not like full on, paid by them advertising. No, it's just what's worked for us, and we've had plenty of our issues with eBay too.
Absolutely.
So it's not like they're perfect. There is no platform that will be perfect, but for us, we haven't found, and there's new platforms up and coming all the time, and we definitely check them out if it makes sense for us, but we've always gone back to eBay to be our main bread and butter because it's just worked. Now, if the fees get too astronomical, I mean, sellers have left the platform, so maybe that we'll get to that point, but that brings us to another point, is that your money is made in the purchase of the item. That is where your money is made, and so getting those items at the right cost, not investing too much, not tying up too much money, so that you can still make a profit after all the fees. So.
Absolutely. It is a huge point. And some people might be watching this, listening to this, just trying to get rid of stuff that's in your house. Not a big ordeal. If you want to go into this as a side hustle, a full-time business, it is super important. Your money is made in your buy. The cheapest you can get your inventory for, you're going to make so much more money on the back end of it. So that is our goal with all of the items that we have in our inventory, everything that we're looking to purchase. We want to get those as cheap as possible so we can make the money on the spread on the back end. That's where your money is made, is in the buy.
Yeah. So we'll make sure we put the link in the show notes for, you can go check out all those different, compare the costs and see if it makes sense for you to have a store, see if it makes sense, at what level to have a store. Oh, I did want to add too, you do get access. There's a couple things you do get access to, which you can see in the chart on that link. But like Terapeak is one of their sourcing things, so that you get access. You don't have that with a starter store. You get that with the basic store and above. So you can look up if an item, like if the sell-through rates, if a item's trending, like what it's selling for. So there's a lot of data you can look up using that. So we don't really use it that much.
No, you can do your own research and your own data by looking at completed listings, looking at active listings, and just seeing that data by yourself. You can go through and look at that.
But you can compare some of your store
Absolutely.
stuff to that and see, like, if you have some stagnant listings, it might be good information for you to see listings that are selling, and it could help you with that. So,
but not a must. Definitely not a must.
But we don't use it that much.
Yeah.
So
what if you want to learn more about flipping? What if you want to learn more? Where should people go? What should they do?
Go to freeflippingcourse.com. We have 5 mistakes that resellers make that can cost them money, and it's just a 5-day email free intro course. So we're excited to give that to you, and thank you for listening and watching.
You guys rock. We'll see you next time.